It is no small thing. Need DNA. The truth about Harry's real father cannot sink off. And you know what? We have quite a dilemma today, and it's going to be resolved soon so that everything about Harry's biological father can finally be revealed. Well, it all started with a post by royal expert Benjamin. He's suggesting that this problem is not going to go away, and this is exactly what is making Harry so bitter. Harry and Meghan are relentlessly trying to damage William's reputation, but Harry simply cannot forget the question about who his real father is. Now, originally, the palace tried to claim that Diana met James Hewitt a couple of years after Harry was born. And we couldn't help but notice that now it seems like the royals are taking a different view on this. They are coming down on the side of journalists who are asking the hard questions. It has been claimed on UK TV that James Hewitt actually met Diana 2 years before Harry was born. And we already know that James Hewitt's own father was convinced that his son was actually Harry's father. We can all remember what Charles said to Diana when Harry was born. "Oh God, and he's got ginger hair." Personally, I don't think it really even matters all that much who Harry's biological father is, but obviously it's something that bothers him. Diana was not a natural blonde. There were photos of her when she was a girl in several books. And when she was really small, she was blonde, but by the time she was a teen, her hair had turned auburn. The post from Mr. Benjamin is short, it is concise, and it has so many hidden meanings. Now, if Harry is curious, there are labs all around the world that do DNA testing. Actually, I'm sure you could even get it done without telling who the samples come from. It might cost a little extra money, but anyway. See, it looks like Harry doesn't really want to know. And that's because if Harry finds out that he's not really the son of Charles, well, he's not going to have any titles, and he's not going to be able to whine and tell a bunch of lies about his alleged family. And he won't have any stake in any royal money ever. If Harry knew that Charles was not actually his bio father, how likely is it that Harry's going to be willing to give up his meal ticket? There is certainly a lot of chaos surrounding this whole matter. And as I've said before, I don't necessarily see Charles's features in Harry's face, but if I look, I do see Hewitt's. And if you were there to take the stance that Harry is a Hewitt, then the following things do make a lot of sense. That would explain why Charles seemed a little bit indifferent when Harry was born, a boy with ginger hair. Charles left basically right after he was born to go play sports, and then Diana called James Hewitt from the hospital after Harry was born. And it could explain why Harry hates his family so much. And boy, it doesn't make Diana look good because it makes it look like she cheated and then got pregnant. And then she lied and told Charles that she was having a girl. Now, this part really is true. And then Charles ended up looking bad because it seemed like he wasn't interested in the birth of his own child. Well, she really doubles down on the above when it came to Charles's comments about the baby's hair color. Now, there is a story that I've heard that James Hewitt's father actually left his signet ring to Harry to be given to him when he turned 18. And then when the police broke into Paul Burrell's home and ransacked it, the first thing they were looking for, according to Burrell, was that ring. The police were not able to find the ring, and Charles had pressed charges against Burrell. So why do you think that could have been? What exactly did Diana's sisters tell Charles about? Could they have betrayed Diana's confidence on this matter? And it is pretty interesting that Her Late Majesty all of a sudden recalled the conversation that she said she had with Paul Burrell about his being a caretaker of Diana's mementos. Wherever you may stand on this issue, you gotta admit, it's weird how the charges against Paul Burrell were all of a sudden dropped. Could it be that he threatened to tell the truth? Could that have been a risk the House of Windsor simply could not afford to take since Diana's death was still incredibly fresh? Legally, Charles is always going to be Harry's father. Nothing is going to change that unless he were to disown him, but I don't think he would do that. Apparently, Prince Philip also gave Charles the advice to say that he was indeed Harry's father, which Charles did. But apparently, Harry's biological father could be another matter altogether. There are some people who claim he could in fact be Philip's son. Yeah, I know, I told you all, this whole issue is incredibly chaotic and incredibly messy. But anyway, there is a good reason to talk about this matter now. Let's not forget the only reason the Windsors occupy the throne today is because the Spencers got their earldom for masterminding the treasonous revolution that deposed James II by claiming his legitimate issue was a changeling and therefore a crime of treason against the people requiring immediate abdication. So, if Charles knows that he's not Harry's bio father and he claims to be his bio father, then he would be guilty of interfering with the line of succession, and that is officially an act of high treason. And it's also a violation of the coronation oath, another act of high treason. So that would mean that he and his line, including William, would be removed. So I do believe Charles would not want to have made it public if Harry were not really his son. He already had his heir, and he was probably desperate at the time to break ties with Diana, and that is more than enough for the future king. To tell you the truth, though, friends, I find this subject to be exhausting. I'm kind of sick and tired of talking about it. If there is any truth to it, it's going to destroy Diana's legacy, and Harry has done more than enough to hurt his late mother. But if he really pushes and the worst comes true, then who is to blame in this situation? I'm sorry to say, but Diana, because she was the only person who really knew the truth. So is Harry really willing to push things that far to completely tarnish his late mother's memory? I certainly hope not. I'm sure it is difficult for Harry to know that this rumor is still circulating. Maybe he has had a DNA test. He probably has. And maybe the result was not what he expected, and that's why he's so angry at his father for not telling him. I mean, this is all speculation, mostly other people's speculation, because honestly, I do feel sorry for him on this matter, and I think it would be better for everybody concerned if we could just drop it. But at the same time, I understand there are people who insist that a DNA test does need to be done. And it's not just a family matter if it turns out that Charles is not his real father. It is an issue with the line of succession, and maybe Charles simply doesn't want to upset everything. We also need to keep in mind that Harry's mental state is incredibly fragile. I think it's important that people are not too cruel about all this. And to be honest with you, even though I do see some of James Hewitt in Harry's face, I also see a lot of Charles. At the end of the day, I do believe that Charles is his father, but more importantly, I don't think it matters at this point. And I think the late Queen understood that something was wrong with Harry. Maybe he's on the spectrum. I think she saw that he needed a little extra care. He was always a source of worry, what with his underage drinking and taking drugs and his temper. So I think they really tried to help him through all of it, and they protected him to a degree that maybe they shouldn't. And because of his mother's tragic death, of course, they wanted to take care of him. In Harry's mind, though, this is translated into him being the favorite. I have seen in print before that actually the Queen absolutely loved Peter Phillips, Princess Anne's son, and he was probably the favorite if anybody was. Looking at the Wales children, though, at least there is no question who those parents are. I mean, all of them resemble William, and Catherine too, but more so William. But Louis, I don't know, I see a little bit more Catherine than Louis. Harry, I gotta say, he doesn't look like either of his parents, but that doesn't mean necessarily they aren't his parents. Now, looking at the three Wales kids, you can tell they're siblings, but Harry and William, if I were to meet them for the first time and not know that they were brothers, I might not guess it. But at the end of the day, I mean, genetics are weird. There are people in my family who don't look like anybody else, but we know they are members of the family. And you, what do you think about this issue? Please, let's talk about it below in the comments section. All right, friends, that is all for now, but please keep the comments coming. I'm really enjoying getting to know you all a little better and talking with you. And don't be afraid to click the subscribe button to get more updates in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a lovely weekend, and we'll be back to see you all tomorrow.